All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty interesting. The idea that music tuned to 432 hertz is somehow like more in tune with the universe than the standard 440 hertz.
Yeah, it's a fascinating theory.
We're working from this audio file someone sent us called 432 hertz, Unlocking the Magnificence of the 369, the Key to the Universe. And I'm excited to dig into it. It touches on music theory, numerology, even conspiracy theories, right?
It really does. It kind of blends them all together in a way that's really intriguing, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So right off the bat, this source, it really emphasizes the number 12. Like it highlights how 12 appears in all these different cultures and time periods. 12 months, 12 hours on a clock, 12 inches in a foot. It's like they're trying to say it's some sort of, a universal constant or something, right?
Yeah, they definitely seem to be setting the stage for this argument about 432 hertz
Yeah.
and how it connects to this idea of a universal harmony based on the number 12.
Okay, so I remember from high school physics that different frequencies create different sounds, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So where does this 432 hertz come into play?
Well, the source claims that 432 hertz is mathematically more harmonious because when you divide it by 12, you get a whole number of 36.
Hmm.
Whereas if you divide the standard 440 hertz by 12, you end up with a repeating decimal. So they're saying like 432 is just, it fits more neatly into this framework of the number 12.
Okay, but hold on. Like, is that a thing? Can a simple tuning difference really have like that much impact on the music or on us?
That's the big question, isn't it? And to be honest, it's a bold claim.
Yeah, it makes you wonder though, right? Like about the interconnectedness of things. I mean, maybe there's more to it than we realize.
Absolutely. And the source actually takes this numerical rabbit hole even deeper by bringing in these the numbers 3, 6, and 9. They even quote Nikola Tesla, the famous inventor, who supposedly said if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the keys to the universe.
Okay, see now that's where things start to get a little out there for me. Like numerology, I've always kind of thought of it as, I don't know, like horoscope stuff.
Right.
But
Yeah.
maybe there's more to it than I realize.
Well, it's true that like humans have always kind of been drawn to numbers, looking for patterns and meaning in them. I mean, think about all the different cultures that have like lucky numbers or sacred numbers.
Yeah, that's true.
So this source is basically taking that idea and connecting it to 432 hertz.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, they point out that 4 plus 3 plus 2 equals 9. And then, as we talked about, dividing 432 by 12, you get 36, which also reduces to 9.
Hmm.
So they're basically saying like 432 hertz equals 369.
Oh,
The real thing.
it does sound kind of like a code waiting to be deciphered, right? But I got to be honest, like, is there any actual science to back any of this up, or are we just like playing with numbers here?
Well, that's the big question. And that's where things get a little trickier. So before we get too deep into like the supposed benefits of this 432 hertz tuning, there's one more claim from this audio we should probably address.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, they spent some time talking about like how 432 hertz was supposedly the ancient standard, like back in ancient Egypt and Greece and stuff.
Yeah.
They even imply that the pyramids were like built in alignment with this frequency.
Oh, right. I remember that. It's like they're painting this picture of, lost knowledge and ancient wisdom, which is super intriguing, but also kind of makes me wonder, like, is there any actual evidence to support that? Or are they just, kind of making stuff up to make it sound more mysterious?
Yeah, that's a good question. And to be honest, the idea that 432 hertz was like this universal standard in ancient times, it's pretty unlikely. I mean, as we talked about earlier, tuning systems have varied quite a bit across different cultures and time periods, depending on the instruments they used and the musical styles that were popular back then.
So no secret society of ancient musicians protecting this sacred frequency.
Probably not.
Bummer.
But it's understandable why people might romanticize the past, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we tend to think of ancient civilizations as having all this like secret knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, totally. Like the whole ancient aliens thing, right?
Exactly.
But I wonder, do you think that kind of influences our perception of 432 hertz as well? Like maybe we're more likely to believe in it because it has this like ancient connection.
I think that's definitely a possibility. The idea of rediscovering this, like lost knowledge or tapping into ancient wisdom, it can be very appealing to people.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's important to be critical about those kinds of claims
Yeah.
and not just take them at face value.
Yeah, for sure. We gotta separate the facts from the fiction.
Yeah.
But thinking about this ancient connection thing, it kind of makes me wonder if if the appeal of 432 hertz, maybe it goes beyond just, the scientific claims. Like maybe it taps into something deeper,
Yeah.
like a longing for connection to something bigger than ourselves, maybe a sense of like spiritual harmony or something like that.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. Music has always played a really important role in human culture and spirituality.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that some people might see 432 hertz as this like bridge be, between science and spirituality.
Mm.
A way to connect with nature and tap into this sense of universal harmony.
Okay, so let's get back to the potential benefits that the source highlights for 432 hertz. They claim that this frequency it transmits beneficial healing energy, that it resonates with our cells, and that it can even induce these like altered states of consciousness. They make it sound like listening to a 432 hertz symphony is like, taking a sonic bath in good vibes. But is there any scientific evidence to support this kind of stuff?
Well, as we talked about earlier, the research specifically on 432 hertz, it's still pretty limited. And while some studies have shown that certain types of music can have positive effects on, our mood, our stress levels, even cognitive function, it seems like those effects are more related to the tempo and the rhythm and the melody of the music rather than the specific tuning frequency.
So it's more about the overall like musical experience rather than just this one specific number, huh?
Exactly. Think about it this way. You can have a really calming piece of music that's tuned to 440 hertz.
Right.
And you could also have a piece of music that's really aggressive and jarring that's tuned to 432 hertz. So it's not just about the numbers, it's about how the music is composed and how it makes you feel.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like saying all blue foods are healthy just because blueberries are, good for you. You
Right.
got to look at the whole picture. But let's be honest, there's something really appealing about this idea of a healing frequency, right? It's like it taps into our desire for simple solutions and quick fixes. Do you think that's part of the reason why this whole 432 hertz thing has gotten so much attention?
Yeah, I definitely think you're onto something there. In a world that often feels really chaotic and overwhelming, the idea that there's this like sonic solution that can, restore balance and promote well-being, it's incredibly attractive to people. It speaks to our longing for harmony and peace, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
It's like we're all searching for that perfect chord, the one that'll make everything fall into place. But if the science isn't quite there yet to support these claims about 432 hertz, what can we say about, the anecdotal evidence? The source mentions all these testimonials from people who claim to have experienced these really positive effects from listening to 432 hertz music.
Yeah.
So like, is there any value in those personal experiences, even if they're not, scientifically validated?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, personal experiences are definitely valuable. They tell us how people are responding to and interacting with music. But it's important to remember that anecdotal evidence it's subjective, and it can be influenced by a lot of different factors, like personal beliefs and expectations and even cultural contexts.
So we should take those testimonials with a grain of salt, but not dismiss them entirely,
Yeah.
right? Like that saying, the plural of anecdote is not data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's important to approach anecdotal evidence with a critical but open mind. Just because something hasn't been, scientifically proven doesn't mean it's not worth exploring or considering.
Yeah.
And in the case of music, I mean, subjective experience is arguably just as important as the objective analysis.
That's a really good point. I mean, at the end of the day, music is about how it makes us feel, right? It can evoke emotions, it can trigger memories, and it can create this sense of connection that goes beyond, words or logic. So even if the science isn't conclusive about the specific benefits of 432 hertz, there's still something powerful and mysterious about the way sound interacts with our bodies and minds.
Absolutely. Music has a really profound impact on us both physically and emotionally. And while we may not, fully understand all the mechanisms at play, there's no denying the transformative power of sound.
All right, so this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm curious, what's stood out to you the most in our exploration of 432 hertz?
I think what's most fascinating to me is how this topic really highlights the intersection of science and culture and spirituality. It reminds us that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving, and there's always more to learn and discover.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, and to explore new ideas, even if they seem a little bit out there. But it's also important to approach those explorations with a critical and discerning mind, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between open-mindedness and healthy skepticism. And maybe, just maybe, in the process of exploring these seemingly far-fetched ideas, we stumble upon new insights that can enrich our understanding of ourselves and the universe around us.
I love that perspective. So as we wrap up part two of our deep dive into 432 hertz, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What should they keep in mind as they navigate this world of alternative theories and extraordinary claims?
I think the most important takeaway is the power of critical thinking. When we encounter claims that seem too good to be true, especially those that tap into our deepest desires for healing and connection and meaning, it's crucial to pause and take a step back and ask ourselves, what's the evidence? What are the alternative explanations? And most importantly, how does this make me feel?
That's great advice. Don't just believe everything you hear, even if it sounds amazing. Do your own research, question your assumptions and trust your instincts. And remember, the journey of discovery is just as important as the destination. Well, we've really gone deep into these claims about 432 hertz, haven't we? We've talked about the math, the history, even the psychology of it all. But now that we've unpacked all of this, I guess the big question is, like, where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for our listeners who are now, like, armed with all this knowledge about 432 hertz?
Well, I think one of the coolest things about a deep dive like this is that it really pushes us to think critically,
Yeah.
to engage with different ideas, even those that might seem a bit out there at first. And while we've kind of debunked some of the more outlandish claims, I still think that core question remains right. Like, could there be something more to music than what we can just hear? Could sound, and specifically this 432 hertz frequency, have a deeper impact on us than we actually understand right now?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, we've talked about how the scientific evidence it's not really conclusive, but then there's all this anecdotal evidence, right? All these stories from people who genuinely believe they've experienced positive effects from listening to 432 hertz music. It's kind of hard to just ignore those. So how do we reconcile those two seemingly contradictory pieces of the puzzle?
Well, I think the key here is to approach this whole topic with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness, but also to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism, right? It's about acknowledging that we don't have all the answers yet, while still being open to the possibility that there's more to learn. Maybe future research will be able to shed more light on the subtle ways that sound interacts with our bodies and our minds, or maybe the real power of 432 hertz lies not in some measurable, like, scientific phenomenon, but in the subjective experience it creates.
That's a fascinating thought. It kind of reminds me of that quote by Hazrat Inayat Khan, the musician and philosopher. He said, "The power of music to integrate and cure is quite real. It is a fact which has been known in India for thousands of years." He really believed that music had this potential to heal not just the body but the soul as well. Do you think there's something to that idea?
Well, I think it's a beautiful sentiment, and it really speaks to the profound impact that music has on us on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Whether we attribute that power to vibrations or frequencies, or just the emotional resonance of music. I mean, there's no denying that sound can move us in ways that science can't fully explain.
It's like music kind of bypasses the logical part of our brains and goes straight to our hearts, and maybe that's where the real magic of 432 hertz lies, not in some scientifically quantifiable
Yeah.
benefit, but in its ability to evoke a sense of peace and harmony and connection.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Ultimately, music is a form of art, right? And art is subjective. What resonates with one person might not resonate with another, and that's okay. The beauty is in the diversity of experience and interpretation.
So if someone's out there and they're curious about 432 hertz, What would you recommend? Should they go out and like buy a bunch of 432 hertz tuned instruments and just ditch all their old music?
I wouldn't recommend like making any drastic changes just based on what we've talked about here.
Yeah.
I think the best approach is to just be curious and experiment, you know. Listen to some music tuned to 432 hertz, see how it makes you feel, compare it to music tuned to 432 hertz. Pay attention to the subtle differences, you know,
Yeah.
and just see how it impacts your mood, your energy levels,
Yeah.
you know, your overall sense of well-being.
It's like a sonic adventure, right?
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe in the process of exploring this alternative tuning, you'll discover some new music that you love, or you'll even gain a deeper appreciation for the music you already enjoy.
Exactly. Music is a vast and wondrous landscape, and there's always something new to discover. The important thing is to approach it with an open mind, a curious heart, and a discerning ear.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely opened my ears to new possibilities and it reminded me of the power of sound to move us, to inspire us and to heal us. And I think that that's a great note to end on to all our listeners out there. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening to the music that makes your soul sing, whatever frequency it may be.